Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, everyone. Welcome along to my walk through the forest on this beautiful, beautiful day here. I'm out in a collared shirt today. Thought I'd look a bit more respectable than just my rancid old jacket I normally wear. So, welcome along. Thank you very much for being here. If it's your first time, welcome. And if you're a returning subscriber, thank you very much for all the subscribers. By the way, 235. I never imagined I get to do 235 subscribers. So. Amazing. Thank you very much for being here. Now, if you haven't been here before, this channel is all about starting discussions, having conversations about topics that might be taboo, if you like, or subjects that people don't normally talk about. And today is one of those subjects. Today we're going to be talking about comedy, offence, and woke culture. So we'll go through each of them as we go, and there's a lot of things that blur over between all of them, so I'll touch on all of them and see what you think. Hopefully you'll agree, but if you don't, that's fine as well, because this is all about starting conversations. And if we can't have conversations about the things that we don't agree with, then we as a society are doomed. So welcome along and let's get started. So comedy, offence, and woke culture. Now, I've seen many comedians over the years, and comedy is the ability to laugh at ourselves and laugh at each other, and it seems that over the past few years especially, we've lost that ability to laugh at ourselves because everything is offensive, hence the reason we're doing the 3 subjects. There's reasoning behind it, believe it or not. I don't script these things. It is literally just off the cuff. I just talk a lot and walk along through wonderful surroundings like this, and so hopefully I make some sense as I go. So comedy, you have comedians like John Cleese has come out and said he won't play college campuses anymore because there's just you can't make jokes because there's people always going to be offended by things. Now this offence culture, Jerry Seinfeld has said the same thing. If you go back to the 70s, Look at John Cleese and the guys from Monty Python, where they were doing skits about the ridiculous things about doing the goose step, faulty towers. I mean, it was irreverent, to say the least. It was hilarious because we were able to laugh at the ridiculousness of what he was doing. But we can't do that anymore. We can't laugh at someone's silly things that they do in their culture. We can't laugh at the silly way that people talk sometimes, or how it sounds to us at least. We've lost the ability to laugh at ourselves. And why is that? Why would we give away that ability to just take the piss and laugh at each other and ourselves? In Australia, laughing at yourself and laughing at each other and your friends, it's a national pastime. Always has been, It's, we have to laugh at the ridiculousness of the situations. And this is more ridiculous than anything I've ever seen. But yet we can't laugh at it because people get offended. I think when I was still at school, this offence thing started, I think, where obviously we're trying to be sensitive to different people's viewpoints, their culture, and the way they talk and how they express themselves. But I think we got overly sensitive to everything. When we talk about offence, the offence is a funny one. Now, people are offended by everything nowadays. Everything. You can't find something that no one's offended by, which is ridiculous. If you talk about Christmas, people are offended by Christmas because, I don't come from a country that celebrates Christmas, so I'm offended. And, when we talk about offence is how you feel. And feelings are important, obviously, but it's been taken to the point where feelings are above everything. So if one person is offended by something, then that has to stop. If it's a personal attack on someone, I understand. Yes, that could be a terrible thing. I understand that. But it's the offence that you're taking on offence for everybody. That's where it starts to get ridiculous. One such example, as an example, Here in the UK, they had a newspaper called The Sun. I never read it, never will read it, not really interested. But in The Sun, they had a page 3 model. Now, the page 3 model was usually a young lady, somewhere around 20, 22, 25, somewhere around that range of age. Usually bare-chested, pretty young ladies who were there as a page 3 model. Now, people who are interested in that kind of thing would go and buy the paper and see these young girls. Not my thing, never my bag, but you know, for some people that's what they did. And but there was a group of headstrong feminists that decided it was offensive. Now, I'm not sure who it was offensive to. Obviously offensive to them because they couldn't have done it because they weren't young or pretty enough, maybe. But you can't say that either because they get offended because they're not young and pretty enough. Now, they banned page 3. They banned page 3 because it was offensive to women. It was sexualizes women. I think we've been through this subject once before, but it's just giving an example because they're offended. Now these headstrong feminists that were advocating for this removal of page 3 were saying, well, it's derogatory to women. But if these women feel that that's a good thing for the women who are doing the modelling, obviously, who it's a choice for them that they wanted to do, who am I to say no? Who are these feminists to say no? In fact, you've got women, and now they're advocating for taking women's rights to earn money the way that they want to earn money away from them for their own good, because somebody else is offended by it. Now, who decides who's right in this stage? Who's right in this whole argument? I mean, you're offended, okay? Well, I'm offended by your offence. So whose offence takes precedent here? You know, this whole, it's a personal thing. You know, so I mean, for me, if you're offended by something, then don't look at it. I mean, it's pretty simple, but I don't think we can think in those terms anymore. You know, I'm offended by horror movies. Should we stop making horror movies? You know, I'm offended by car washes. Car washes, it's offensive to people who wash cars by hand. I mean, where do we draw the line on this? You know, and who makes the rules? Who decides whose offence is more important than another person's offence? And that relates back to comedy as well, because when you have somebody sitting in an audience, if you're going to a comedy show and a comedian gets up on stage and starts talking about, let's just say it's a black comedian, right? And he's hilarious, and he talks about white people. And he says, oh, these crackers, you know, and he's calling white people crackers. Now, I'm offended by that word, obviously. I'm not, but, you know, let's just say that I am. I have a choice. I can sit there and I can continue to laugh, or continue to be upset and feel oppressed by it. Or I can choose to leave. You know, it's a pretty obvious, you know, if you're that offended by something, then you can choose not to do it. You know, why do people partake in things that they're offended by? That's the question that we have to come back to, is where does personal choice come into this? Now that leads on to another argument as well about, you know, the choice of words that we use and how the words are used, and is it being used in a derogatory term? You know, are you deliberately trying to put someone down, or are you saying it because it's funny? Now, this is a touchy one when we were talking about the use of the N-word. Now, white people can't use that word, but black people can. Because if white people use it, then it's derogatory, but if black people use it, then it's cultural, apparently. So, you know, I remember not too long ago there was I don't know, an actress or something who was singing along to a rap song that had the N-word in it, and somebody got offended by it because it was a white woman saying the word. Now, I've mentioned in one of my previous videos about a band that I listened to when I was growing up, called NWA. Now, if you don't want to know what NWA stands for, I'll get you to Google it because I'm not going to say it. It's the N-word. the N-word with attitude. Okay? So NWA, great band, but imagine being a white person like me, and you want to go and buy an NWA album, going into a record shop or going into a store. How do I ask? How do I ask for that song? You know, if I'm in a nightclub and a song comes on and it's got the N-word in it, but I'm singing along the words, am I guilty of some offence by singing along to the song? You know, I understand that there are people out there, white supremacists, racists, you know, who use that word in a derogatory term to belittle people, you know, of colour. If that's the right nomenclature there, I hope it is. Otherwise, somebody's going to get offended. You know, it's where do we draw the line on this? You know, obviously, if you're saying something in a context of being derogatory, putting someone down, then yeah, sure. I mean, that's fair. But, you know, who decides that? Is it a personal thing? And if it is a personal thing, then if it is a personal thing, then how can we translate that out to the rest of society? Is a short way to put it. And that's the crossovers between comedy, offence, and this new woke culture now. Woke culture. This always gets me. Woke, okay? Woke means that you're particularly sensitive to every single issue that surrounds the entire world right now. You know, it's like you have to be super aware of the struggle of everybody and their individual crusade to be recognised as equal. Yeah? Now, I think we can all recognise that everybody is equal, regardless of your colour of your skin, where you're from, you know, your class position. You know, the classism that we experience in our world every day is just ridiculous. But, you know, that doesn't come from you and me, obviously. That's more of a political thing, because the political elite decide that they're a better class than you and I. And that's, you know, this whole woke culture is fighting against perceived injustices in a lot of cases that are supposed to exist in our society. Now, while I'm aware of injustices in society, I think a lot of them are perceived and built on by media and these special interest groups, let's put them that way. Special interest groups that magnify that message to make it seem that it's a much bigger problem than what it is. And obviously the young people that are on board with these kind of, really out there ideas in some cases, that try and implement that into law that govern the rest of us. Now I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. Now in Canada, we have a law that they passed that if you were to misgender someone, that's a criminal offence that carries a fine. Misgendering someone. Now, in our society now, it is kind of hard at times to recognise, and you have 52 different genders at the moment or something like that. I can't even keep up anymore. Back when I was a kid, it was pretty simple. You men and women, obviously. And then you had people that sort of didn't quite fit into those groups. You had men that like to dress as women, women like to dress as men. But now we've got these people who dress up as, what they call them, furries. They dress up in animal costumes. To put it, I suppose that's the simplest way I can put it. They make costumes at animals and they have sex as an animal. Cool. If that's what you want to do. You got other people that want to dress up as babies and have their nappies changed. Whatever. I don't care. You do whatever you want to do. It doesn't bother me. But when you're bringing that into society at large, when you're bringing that into society at large and try and put that into law, it makes society almost impossible, because we have more laws than we understand currently anyway, and that's just about the most basic stuff. When you start to bring in things like, well, you can't misgender somebody even if you do it accidentally. It is, and as I've said before, if you're doing something deliberately, and you're deliberately trying to entice something, then that's a different story altogether. You know, accidentally misgendering someone when there's clearly a man dressed as a woman, or a woman, man. I don't even know. I can't even use the right terminology now because I don't want to, I want to get the nomenclature right so it doesn't look like I'm trying to attack anybody. But it is. It's got to a point where it's when you're trying to put into legislation offence, where one person might take offence to something, it's impossible to live that way. You know, if you go back a couple of videos, I did a video about the Great Awakening, and that deals with law and legal terminology. Now, the biggest problem that we face with law and legal terminology is that most of us have no idea about most of the laws that we live under. None. Like, you'd be amazed at some of the things that are law. You know, I'm a chef for my job. I'm not a chef, but, you know, I'm a chef for my job, and you'd be surprised that there are actually regulations that are in place that allow a certain amount of rat hair in a meat pie before it's deemed to be unsafe. True. And some of these laws are left over 200, 300-year-old laws that are still there, that most of us don't even know about, that we're living under these laws. So you could be arrested for things that you have no idea you've even broken the law. And this whole offence thing is leading to more laws. You know, I think there has to be some common sense, but it would seem that common sense left us about 15 miles back, and we don't even know. It fell out of the car because we're all drunk on a ride down the street. You know, I mean, it's lunacy. I'm just sort of picking some new paths, sorry. It's lunacy that we're trying to make up these new laws and push through new laws, through new legislations, when we can't even look after the people on a very basic level, but we're just trying to push through all these new laws and legislations for perceived offence from individuals, very, very small minority of the population. Now, that said, we have to try and protect all in our society, but those people that sort of fit way outside the boundaries, you have to also be recognising that most of us just want to get on with our day and not have to worry about these perceived law breaking or this perceived oppression that they're under. And it is, much of it is perception rather than actual. Are there assholes in the world? Yeah, of course there are. And you're always going to have them. Now, you know, if we go back to schooling and the rules that have been put on children in school, and see that we have these, they don't want children to be experiencing pain. They don't want children to experience the pain of loss. So, you know, when you have a running race at school nowadays, everyone gets a medal, you know, up to the 9th or 10th place. Good work, Johnny, nice try. Because as much as trying is all well and good, in life, when you get out into the real world, it's not all sunshine and rainbows, and you know, kids are going to lose sometimes, and they have to learn that sometimes. But what's happened is, because they've grown up in this culture of, oh, you're just wonderful, and you know, you're no good at sports, but we're going to give you a medal anyway. They go out into the real world and see this, that the real world isn't all you get a participation medal. Oh, thanks so much for turning up to work today. You know, it doesn't work that way. The world isn't all sunshine and rainbows, and trying to legislate and put more laws into place so it is that way, it will never work. Now, when it comes back to comedy and offence, you know, obviously, where can we draw the line with this? I mean, you know, if you're going to say things to deliberately be funny, sometimes that's going to be offensive. And that comes down to tweets as well. Now, there was a young lady, I can't remember what her name was, I'm sorry. You know, I'm sure somebody will put it in the comment section. There was a young lady who worked for Disney in the show called The Mandalorian, I believe, who tweeted out something about how the Germans were vilifying the Jews to make the German population hate them. So when the Nazis came and rounded them up, everyone was just like, well, good riddance. You know, in fact, neighbours would give up their Jewish neighbours because they were told that they were dirty. There were, you know, all these things that they were told that these people were guilty of. Much like the Trump supporters nowadays. Oh, yeah, if you're a Trump supporter, you're a racist. xenophobe, much like it is here in Britain. If you voted for Brexit, you're a racist and you're a xenophobe. And the only reason you would do that is because you don't like people. But it is very much trying to paint people into a corner that it doesn't matter what you say, it doesn't matter what you do, you can't get out of. And it's what's happening now. So this young lady, she did this tweet where she's talking about how the Germans were treating the Jews, and she was taken from the show, from the Mandalorian show. Now, a couple of years ago, you had a guy called James Gunn. He was a director, I think, or a producer or something. James Gunn, also working for Disney, who did some tweets that were very questionable about children and paedophilia. Now, originally he was suspended for his comments and his tweets, but he's just been taken back on to Disney. It still hasn't deleted the tweets, but he's been taken back onto Disney. But this young lady has not. Even after she deleted the tweets, by the way. So we see a double standard forming here, because who controls what we can say? Who's in control of that? Who decides what we can and can't say? Well, but it's a private company and they can do it, they can make their own rules. Okay? So if we take that into consideration, these private companies can do whatever they want. How far do we go with that? We've got laws, obviously, that are very clearly laid out about what you can and can't say, and the things you can do, how you can act. There are very clear laws to make sure that people aren't getting picked on for race, gender, their identity, gender identity, whatever that means nowadays. You can identify as a beautiful ornate building, but apparently I can't identify as being vaccinated, even though I'm not. That's not a gender, apparently. I think we should make it one. But these companies, private companies, they can not adhere to the laws because, well, they're a private company. They can do what they want. So the companies have more power than the perceived laws that we live under. They don't have to obey them. As an example about laws and who they're applicable to, what they're trying to enforce now is, or they're trying to put in place, trying to write a law for, is that you require a vaccination passport to travel somewhere. Okay? Now, if you agree with that, well and good. But know that this is really important that you know this, is that if that was a fair and it was equal to everyone, I mean, that would be one thing. But who isn't this applicable to? Politicians, diplomats, and wealthy businessmen. Or business people, I better say that, business people. Wealthy business people, politicians and diplomats don't have to abide by that. So is that fair and equitable? Is that across the board for everybody? No, it's not. But yet you have people like Piers Morgan, fuck you Piers, by the way, who's spouting utter tripe, complete uneducated nonsense with his oh yes, I went to eat, and kind of accent. This is a guy who hacked the phone of a young lady who got murdered, Millie Dowler, okay, many years ago. And he's trying to tell us all, that his moral compass is set right. Okay, he was the editor of a newspaper and had a dead girl's phone hacked so they could break a story for the newspaper. That's who Piers Morgan is, okay? And this guy is trying to be morally superior to us in his tweets and on television. Fuck you, Piers. So, but he's probably going to be offended by that. Yeah, good. But these laws don't apply equally to everybody. And then you have politicians and rock stars, movie stars, whatever. They don't apply. And then when they do get caught doing what they tell all of us that we can't do, then they go on the television and do the little fake tears. Professional actors, remember that. Professional actors who are professional liars go and do their perfect fake cry. Oh, I'm really sorry I let you all down. You know, I'm offended by that. I'm offended by bullshit. Should we ban these people from speaking? You know, where do we draw the line on this? It's a tough ask. It is. I mean, how and where do we draw those lines? And it's up to us, I think. You know, if we're offended by something, or if somebody said something that personally offends us, we take personal offence to it, then we can say, I don't like what you said. Give the person a chance to be, you know, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't realise that would be offensive to you. Or walk away. Don't like what a comedian says? Don't listen. Don't like listening to rap music where they use the N-word all the time? Don't listen to that either. But don't make it so that a white person, because it's racist if I sing that song, you know, it is. We've got to get to that point where we can decide for ourselves, not be constantly involved in litigating something that shouldn't be litigated. Personal offence is personal offence. It's your offence. And you get to decide what you do with that. Not a courtroom, not a lawyer. If it is deliberate and it's sustained, different story altogether, you know, if you can prove that. But it's personal. It's a personal offence that you're taking, and you have to examine why that's personally offensive to you. Now, we're going to be examining, in my next talk, we're going to be talking about cultural appropriation, which is the sort of the next step on from what I'm talking about today. Cultural appropriation, one of my favourite subjects, because I mean, it is utterly ridiculous. But we're going to be talking that in the next section. But yes, so today, offence, comedy, woke culture, you know, stop being offended by everything. And if you are, step back out of society. If you're that offended by the way that the world is, I'm offended by politicians and the utter bullshit that they constantly speak. Should we ban politicians? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely we should ban politicians because they're offensive to everyone. They're offensive to good taste and moral judgment. They're offensive to everyone. But I guarantee they're never going to pass a law for that kind of offence. So, my only advice on this subject, have a laugh, enjoy it. I mean, really, if you can't laugh at yourself and you can't laugh at each other, good-naturedly, it's going to descend into more of this utter nonsense that we're all going to be constantly fighting with each other. Don't be like that. Yeah, have a laugh. Especially now, social media is being very divisive now. We can't. Everything's offensive because everything's a trigger point. We need to get together with each other. As in physically get together and be able to discuss things, have a laugh at and with each other. And if we can do that, our society is going to run a whole lot better than what it is right now. So, I hope you've enjoyed my walk through the woods today. I mean, it is absolutely stunning out here. Beautiful day. I hope it's as wonderful as it is here where you are. And, and I hope you have a wonderful afternoon or morning or wherever you are in the world. And I shall look forward to seeing you on the next round. Take care of each other, and look forward to seeing you soon. Ciao.